alert and awakened citizenry. So when I address you, I'd keep my opening remarks very brief, because this meeting is also looking forward towards an interaction. I'll give interaction a larger space, because that's where I think pointed addressing of issues can happen rather than me giving a monologue. I hope that will be all right with you. See, we are at a stage where clearly, as the introduction given by Ahmad rightly said, economy from being the 10th largest around 2013-14 has reached the 5th largest despite COVID. Let us not get confused by the narrative which some people would give us, saying anyway it is arithmetic, you will have to move upwards, you will grow, you don't need a leadership like Prime Minister Modi, economic policy as it is will take it. No, not at all. Countries can go up, countries can come down, like many of the developed countries are coming down. So the risk element of a downward, going downward, a downward risk as they call it, is always there. It is never a mathematical, eventuality that you should from 10th to 5th, 5th to the... No. But yet, there is this larger story which I was remotely referring to when I was in a media interaction. Unfortunately, at a time when India is facing a lot of opportunities, as much as, like many other countries, facing a lot of challenges as well, it is the stability factor with which people have realized you want a government to continue its policy. Whether it is taxation policy, whether it is any other policy towards developing the country, encouraging industries, supporting India's own MSMEs, and making sure our agriculture becomes highly productive, there are continuity of policy which each of these sectors want. And it is because that there is a confidence in the voter's mind, the citizen's mind, that what we've seen since 2014, a corruption-free government. Of course, there are a lot more things to do. No one is saying it's all achieved yet. People chose to give a mandate in 2019, and for the third time gave the mandate in 24. As is observed nowadays very much in the social media, globally there are more than 50 countries which went into election mode this year. Not in more than a few of them, in fact hardly a few of them, had a government come back for the third term post-COVID. Post-COVID, governments, irrespective of all that they did during the COVID phase, have found it difficult to come back. And here are we talking about Prime Minister Modi and his relationship with the people of India, the trust that the people of India repose on him, that he has come back to power and being in public life since 2002, elected position since 2002. So, if there is got to be anti-incumbency, he wouldn't have even reached here. He's a Prime Minister who shares his vision, takes a lot of input from the people, and also responds actively. So, therefore, taking from the 10th to the 5th and from the 5th to the 3rd, is because the people saw continuity under him, stability under him, and a certain predictability under him for policies, that he has been chosen to come back for the 3rd time. But in the meanwhile, the challenges are not abating. If COVID was a big challenge, and we came out with our unique solutions, not comparable to the solutions which very many other countries gave. They were advice given to us about print notes and give money in the hands of the people, you would have recovered. We targeted our recovery measures, we targeted our relief measures. And today you see India is the fastest growing last year, this year, and predicted by World Bank and IMF even for the next year. This is not something that we can ignore. I don't want to speak of it as a big achievement. No, it is the effort of all the people of the country. Every citizen worked wanting to come out of the situation which was out of any one of our country. But the war, not one, several wars, the disruptions in the global world trade, the global trade is not really picking up as much as it should pick up. And if trade picks up, you know that your exports will earn revenue. Your own domestic market will become more competitive. So there are challenges. And despite all this, it is because of the leadership and, as I said, predictability of policy, stability of governance, clean governance, that people have chosen to come with the same leadership. And this leadership is not doing it just on a daily basis, it's giving us a direction where we are. An immediate direction, a medium-term direction, and a long-term direction. And the long-term direction has been set. And there is a milestone there. Why should it be in 2047 that by which time that we should become developed? 100 years of independence from imperial rule. Should we not give that kind of a stature for the country, at least for the sake of future generations? So a goal has been identified. And how do we achieve that? And for achieving that is the various ways in which we are saying we'll still put money for public investment for creating infrastructure. Investment, infrastructure, innovation, and inclusivity. The 4 I's with which we shall reach the milepost of a developed country by 2047. So we will put public money so that we have more infrastructure which has not been built in 60 years. And even yesterday, I must give this example before you. I had the entire board of directors of the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, AIIB. They were speaking to us about the way in which India is transforming itself. And there are a few of them who have come in 2010, some of them who have come more than once between 2014 and now. And there was one gentleman who had come in 1984 the last time. And the way in which he spoke about India, saying it's unbelievable the way in which India has transformed itself. And the kind of infrastructure which are available for public to use, visibly seen. And I'm sure many of you all would be traveling to different parts of the world. You see the infrastructure there and you compare it with the infrastructure India is creating for itself today. I'm not even yet speaking about the digital public infrastructure, about which every delegation which comes to India from overseas speaks, saying, how did you all manage this? So, the 4 I's, and I repeat, infrastructure, investment, innovation, and inclusivity. That's how we'll have to move forward so that the economy is constantly kept buoyant. And this year's budget we very clearly have announced, continuing with the vote on account budget, that the Indian youth need all the support for skilling, for their innovations, for their access to AI. Upskilling will be a priority. And that is why you found that in this budget and even one before, not just the vote on account, but before that as well, whether it is quantum the quantum mission which was created with money. Whether it is bringing together all the scattered resources of Government of India under one head, the National Research Foundation, under the Department of Science and Technology. Now the Anusandhan Kosh, so there is more money given for research and development. I am standing in coastal Karnataka, which I know values education, which I know has done a very big contribution to India's banking sector. Whoever can forget it? Pioneers. This entire coastal Karnataka belt are full of pioneers. You brought in medical education like never before to India. So education, whether at the primary or scaling it up at the higher levels, you are pioneers here. So it is only appropriate that I talk about the Science Foundation, the Anusandhan Kosh, giving enough substance and corpus for them to be able to fund even private research. So we are not talking about four eyes, innovation being one of them, without putting money where it should be put. So if youth have to be given that kind of a support so that they contribute in a big way. And I was happy when our young new MP who you've chosen to represent this area was with me from the airport. When he said, you started this co-workspace in Mangaluru, that seems to be doing well because young people are finding the place good enough for them to start off with their startup. We should do more such a thing. I'll be happy to join hands with the MP and do more such a thing. This area requires that much and much more. And for every investment, every initiative taken, there's at least 5 times multiplier because the people also very quickly catch on to these things. And I'm very happy to stand here and talk about these sort of things because it matters to this area. So when we are talking about scaling up and when we are talking about public participation in funding private research, there is money put. And also when we are talking about the youth, because they have skill sets which are very different. And sometimes when we talk with employers, they say they're qualified, not just people from here, but all over the country. They're qualified, but they just don't have that employability because that requires a slightly more different skill sets. So to give that employability skills to people, we are saying we need to have a lot more introduced even when they are doing their final year or year before. Whether it is learning a foreign language, whether you want to understand what an employer is expecting you to come up with when you come out of your degree courses. In fact, this year the budget announced 5 different measures to support the youth of this country. And one of which comes under my ministry, the Corporate Affairs Ministry, about which I'd speak for a minute because it captures in total the approach of this government. We are not just going to give some internship and wash our hands off. We are saying for those young people, we of course gave an age band of 21 to 24. For those young people who are unemployable, sorry for using that word, there are quite a few of our young who come out of class 10, class 12, ITIs, diploma holders who still are not finding jobs. What is it that they miss out on? Do they understand what the employer wants? So we started this internship program. Top 500 companies have been asked to open up avenues. Young will come and join them. For 12 months, every month, Government of India will pay them 4,500 rupees. The organization of the company will pay them 500. They'll get 5,000 rupees per month. The first month they go in there, they get a lump sum one-time amount of 6,000 rupees. just to know what the employer does in various silos, get exposed to it. And after that, in your CV, you're going to say one of the top 500 gave me an internship opportunity. I'm now fairly aware of what I'm expected to deliver, and therefore I'm much better to get employment. 1 crore India's youth will be reached out in this 5 years so that they will all get that exposure, with government paying their monthly allowance. If this is one side, the other side is the 2 or 3 schemes under the skills ministry where young people are being trained in skills, given exposure to very many qualifications that you need. But even as I say this, in my mind runs this picture of one of the announcements which was also made in the budget, where ITIs, which are state-run, will be given the modern equipments which are required to understand how to learn about artificial intelligence. You go and understand what is AI, what are the skills required by you for that, what do you do with it. If Chat GPT has come from somewhere, can you create a Chat GPT kind of a thing within India? So artificial intelligence based training is also going to be given from the ITIs. You must have read in the papers that 3 top institutions of the country have been declared as institutions of excellence for AI. Other than, of course, working on how to use AI ethically, how to protect your data, how to make sure that unsavory things don't happen, those kind of things are already happening. Other than doing that, only for agriculture-related applications of AI, one of the institutions has been chosen and announced as Institution of Excellence. Another has been chosen only for health and health-related applications. A third one has been chosen for newer cities, urban development. How are we going to make our cities livable? How is AI going to come into use for it? And this is not as if the 3 centers are chosen, they're all somewhere, some work is going to happen, none of us will know about it. It is a kind of hub and spoke. These 3 are chosen. Any institution gets attached to them as spokes in the wheel, and everybody is going to learn from give and take. So we are moving in that kind of a direction with which the youth benefit. India keeps its leadership in terms of digital technologies and also in artificial intelligence, because your digital public infrastructure has opened up avenues for all our youth, whether they are in rural areas, whether they are in urban areas, literate, semi-literate, everybody is using this now. DPI, QR code, tell me even a vegetable vendor doesn't know about it. So India has benefited from it, and we would want to encash on it and invest more in it. So if the direction is in this form, more and more information, more and more getting on the digital footprint. Just one line I will give you on the way in which Prime Ministers measure with a foresight, bringing financial inclusion, Jan Dhan Yojana, and from there DBT, and from there the money saved for the government, and from there more right kind of people getting the entitlements that they should get, the subsidy that should get. Today, the digital footprint that accounts have created for themselves, even a small person's account, how many transactions have happened, what is his base, how much saving is there in his account, have helped him now to access more credit from wherever he wants. The account aggregator process that we started is able to now do the pass-through from a client who has got an account in one bank, but he thinks there's a different bank which can give him more favorable terms for a small loan. The ticket size may be small, but it is important for him. So through the account aggregator, despite us having an account somewhere, He takes credit from somewhere else. And how is it enabled? How is it possible? They're all being made possible through digital methods. With his explicit permission, his KYC is passed on to the newer bank, which he identifies. And they together then decide, yes, we are willing to sanction this ticket loan and in such terms. He immediately becomes eligible without having to run from pillar to post to get his credit. Account in one place, credit from some other place, all of them happening as though seamlessly. As a result, today, availability of credit has actually become easier for small, far-flung businesses. Small I keep using, but they are micro, nano businesses which are benefiting because of these digital measures that we have taken. And countries abroad are now looking at which element or which brick of this entire stack should they take from India, because there are countries which want the whole stack, there are countries which want some elements of it. The scaling up which we have achieved is what surprises them. So it is like this. I can go on to speak about various measures that we're taking, but as I said, I'll be very happy to respond to every one of your questions so that it becomes more pointed discussion rather than a monologue from my side. But it's always a pleasure to come here, always a pleasure to interact with Bangalore and coastal Karnataka. I have got great memories of this area from my childhood, and I value the inputs that I go back with every time when I come here. The citizens and the people of this area are warm, affectionate, no doubt, but a very enterprising lot. And hats off to you for that.
Thank you.
In an area which gave a lot of banks, for a young mind to think about it doesn't surprise me, but it is so impressive. The one thing which I'm not sure if I'm saying this right. Was it Syndicate Bank which coming from this region, which had a, yes, Syndicate Bank is from this region, I know. But they had a one-liner. Pygmy Bank was their invention, but they had a one-liner. Let your first expenditure be saving, or something of that kind. Am I attributing to the right bank? I don't know. The first thing our children should know is money you want to spend, you want to buy a gift, you want to buy a lollipop, you want to buy something. Please, before that, put something in your saving. It can be. The piggy bank scheme was essentially Syndicate Bank. But the first thing the child should be taught and told is to handle money, and handle money with a certain responsibility. The question itself is full of, infused with responsibility. What is the first lesson I should know about money? And this day and age, and I will tell you a story from the GST Council. And to my surprise, it's not a BJP minister, finance minister from a Congress-ruled state. Not now, 1.5, 2 years ago. He said that he was frightened because at some point in time, his card was given to his grandchild very quickly to sort something out. Children are very savvy. They can quickly handle these sort of things. His grandchild used the card and was able to sort that day's problem for him. But later, he realized other members of the family were also seeking his help to do the same thing. Which is very well, so long as it was monitored. Among children, they were probably talking, and some of them thought, no harm, because if the father or grandfather has given the card, he is using it, so is my family giving my card, his father's card, and so on. It went suddenly, the bills came so high, and they had to sit and wonder what's happened. who's spending this much money? How the cards have, come up charged with so much? They realized that jokingly, joyfully, a lot of things were happening using the card by the children. Just that one instance when he gave for some help meant that he had the authority to use the card each time. The grandchild didn't have malice in his mind, but he thought he can use it. Dada ne mujhe ek baar diya, so I can handle it. So the rest of them didn't object. But the bill mounted for what? For small gains. And he suddenly sat up and said, what have I done to my grandchild? To seek help is one thing. But later the boy thought he was authority enough to use it, but use it for what? For playing games. With money in it. And it frightened the person. And after that he started controlling the use of the card in the house. So earlier days it was coin, you can put into your piggy bank. It was small amount, you went to the shop nearby, bought something. And our neighborhood also was trustworthy. The shopkeeper would say, hey, your child is coming too frequently, are you giving money? These kind of conversations used to happen. Now no, it's card or it's QR code. It's easy for us, it's easier for the children. So I would think caution is the word. We need to educate our children, but we also have to make them a lot more responsible. Here's a child who is very responsible to ask it and ask about it in public. But I'm sure all of us have a duty to make sure our children are going to be responsible.
Thank you, ma'am. We really appreciate this. The next question is from Mr. K. Akash M. Rao. How is India positioning itself to create a financial ecosystem attractive to foreign companies, replacing China as a manufacturing hub? What impact could the shift of companies like Apple to Southeast Asia have on India's long-term geopolitical and economic standing?
It is very serious an issue that we need to make ourselves a manufacturing hub. And from 2014, Honorable Prime Minister is placing emphasis to make India a manufacturing hub, not just to produce for us, but also to be able to export from here. Various schemes of the government have been shaped and designed for this purpose. Along with the investment, we also want to create jobs. So productivity-linked incentive, employment-linked incentives are all being worked out. Productivity-linked incentives brought us the advantage of electronics and also for mobile manufacturing, and that has really paid off. You're able to see how much we produce today, and 40% of all Apple produced in the world is being produced in India. So those are the ways in which we want to make sure that we give emphasis for production, manufacturing. The second big example that I will give is about how India, as a big procurer of defense equipments, importer of defense equipments, quite a lot of our foreign exchange used to go for paying for these imports. Today is one of the big producer of defense components, and not only producer, but also big exports of defense equipments are happening from India. It could be large, arms, it can be your BrahMos, but it can also be small components. So I think in giving emphasis for defense production, at least 5 years ago, 6 years ago, is now showcasing how it is paying off for us. India is becoming a big producer of defense equipments, and therefore to that extent the payments that are going out are coming down. MSMEs have benefited because of this defense production, and therefore their prospects of growing and also exporting is improving. So I spoke about the mobile and related manufacturing, I spoke about defense related manufacturing. you cannot miss out how the semiconductor industry is also coming into India. India is becoming a big electronic manufacturing hub. That semiconductor ladder itself has so many different levels of productions. Each level is finding interest in India and investments are happening on that. Other than that, very distinct. There was a time when we were encouraging, and today also we encourage renewable energy, solar energy, wind energy, and so on. For that, we used to import a lot of critical components. And getting solar equipments used to come from our neighbor. Today, India supplies solar equipments to countries outside. And that itself is a big shift from depending on equipments from China. Today, we being the big manufacturer and supplier to the world on quality solar equipments. I underline quality solar equipments. So these are not changes which are happening by the way. Active support through policy is happening, and that is why they are able to build on these capacities. So manufacturing will be our priority.
Thank you, ma'am. The next question is from Shri Vasant Edley. So if you're here, I request you to stand. How will the economic instability and inflation in neighboring countries like Bangladesh, Sri Lanka and Pakistan impact India in the long run? What role can India play in fostering stability and strengthening the broader Asian continent amid these challenges?
Read the first line.
I'll repeat it again. How will the economic instability and inflation in neighboring countries like Bangladesh, Sri Lanka and Pakistan impact India in the long run? What role can India play in fostering stability and strengthening the broader Asian continent amid these challenges?
Well, the instability is one thing. Inflation in those countries is another. But India's economy is yet to be integrated completely with these economies. If we had been integrated, greater impact will be there. We are less integrated, and ideally there should be more integration with our neighbors. But instability hitting us is less probable because of this not complete integration. However, for instance, in Bangladesh, there were several of our own investments which had gone there. For instance, textile sector. Because Bangladesh continued to enjoy the GSP preferences, whether with the US or with Europe, many of our textile manufacturers themselves went and invested in Bangladesh, and from there exported and enjoyed the benefit which India no longer enjoys, because we have advanced ourselves as textile manufacturer and exporter. But today, many of them are probably even returning to India and setting up businesses back again. As a result, many of our textile hubs are now buzzing back again because these investments are coming back. So it's a mixed reply. You have prospects by integrating. Sri Lankan economy also has a lot of give and take with us, energy production. Our supplies of food, milk powder, and many such fundamental, primary goods from India going to Sri Lanka are very much an integration question. If we were integrated more, political stability would hit us more. But there is prospect because we are not yet integrated as much. So there is work to be done in our neighborhood.
Thank you, ma'am. Due to the high number of requests that we got from the audience to take one question from the audience who have not put it up in the QR, we'll be opening this to the audience once for one question from the audience. I'd like the volunteers to kindly coordinate and pass the mic.
Namaste. How can we influence Latin America? Because recently we have been there, especially in Mexico. It's a country which, with the terror and whatnot, crime, how do we can influence it, and what could be our northern neighbor and their concubine in the west will tamper it? What is your view on that? That's my personal view. Thank you.
Would you please repeat it?
Sorry, I'm very bad in communication.
No, I'm not able to grasp because it was quite a very comprehensive picture that you were putting in your question. Please repeat it.
Okay. Very recently you have been to Mexico. I heard it's a 1 month back or whatever it is exactly, I don't know. So how can we influence that economy? It's a crime-based economy, best of my knowledge. And they do have oil or whatever it is that could be the back of my mind or your ministry. And secondly, our northern friend and the concubine of the West can tamper us on our progress in that. And secondly, one more question. The press and media, whatever it is aiming at Honorable PM, it's hitting on you. How do you react to it? Thank you.
See, I must say, yes, I did go to Mexico, not about 3 weeks ago. Slightly different from what you perceive of what is happening there. They have immensely benefited by the North American Free Trade Area, NAFTA. They are able to export a lot of things because of that free trade agreement they have with the North American countries. And because they are able to export a lot from Mexico, Indian investment in Mexico is also very high, particularly our software industries. The top, let us say 5, 6 top software industries are present there. I in fact went and visited TCS's establishment in Mexico, which are 3 or 4 in 4 different towns, I think. I went to one where they have, after India, the second biggest establishment in Guadalajara. In Mexico, top 5 of our software companies are present and they're doing extremely well. Most of their clients are from North America, meaning Canada, United States of America, to some extent even South American countries. So not just Indian companies, many other companies who have invested in Mexico are doing fine. In fact, Indian companies are not just software. Some pharma companies from India are also there and they're doing well. The near-shoring policy of the United States of America, like with India, they say friend-shoring. Get investments going to friendly countries. So when you're talking about China plus one, when US talks about China plus one, they say friend-shoring. Go, if you want to come out there, come out and go to friendly countries. It could be Vietnam, it could be India, it could be Indonesia, it could be Mexico. That's your friend-shoring. But near-shoring has been happening in Mexico for now more than 20 years. As a result, many Indian investments have gone there and they are doing very well.
Thank you. The next question is from a chartered accountant, Shri Abhiram KS. Taxpayers feel burdened by compliance requirements aimed at reducing non-compliance among a few. With more transactions under TDS and TCS in GST and income tax, can taxpayers expect fair treatment and not be penalized for others' mistakes?
Of course you can expect. Fair treatment is something which is your right. And we'll be working towards it. Where it is unfair, I'll certainly, at my level, get involved to sort it out. And everywhere I go around to talk with income tax field formations, or when I meet up with GST officials, any attempt at unfair treatment which has come to my notice, I pull them up severely. And there are, I also will have to say, if there are unintended harassment, a few maybe intended harassment, but I deal with both of them equally to make sure harassment will not happen. And I will respond to anybody who tells me, sorry, this is what has happened here, will you please take it up? The intention of Prime Minister Modi in having brought in faceless assessment and faceless appeal in direct tax, which is income tax, was this. And in GST too, we are slowly telling all the field formations to make sure that the work which the government is doing to decriminalize and make sure that simple worded rules and frequently asked questions are posted so that people know what is expected of them, because we go on trust-based. PM often says, I trust citizens, so our rules should speak for it. So we'll go on that road. But I welcome if you have anything in particular to let me know. Without, of course, any worries of confidentiality, I will handle it. Our intention is not to make it difficult for taxpayers. If there is any harassment, I appeal to everyone. Do let me know. I'll take the responsibility to sort it.
Thank you, ma'am. The next question is from Dr. Shiva Kiran, co-chair for Startup 20. The question is, what steps is the government considering to address governance and leadership challenges faced by startups, including unicorns, that have led to declines in valuation and investor confidence? How does your ministry plan to strengthen governance practices within the startup sector of India?
Well, the Department of Internal Trade and Investment Policy, DPIIT, deals with it. They are the ones who categorize startups as startups. They are the ones who look into every governance reform that has to be brought in. If there is any fiscal implication, we certainly come in with an open mind and help out. But in terms of valuation, if there's something that you want to tell me, which I need to take it up, I'll certainly take it up. Do send me your views, and I will take it up from the ministry and also engage with the DPIIT.
Thank you, ma'am. The next question is by Purvik Shetty. Why India is facing the poor credit rating despite having the fastest growth economy, and what are the steps taken to overcome the same? I would request this person to please stand as well. Mr. Purvik Shetty. Mr. Purvik Shetty.
Is there a mic being given to him?
I request the volunteer to kindly take the mic forward. Thank you.
Hello. Namaste, ma'am. Despite of being the fastest growing economy, India is facing like a poor credit crisis on like bonds. So, what are the steps India is taking?
Meaning the current credit rating by the agencies about India. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, overall.
Well, with the credit rating agencies, we engage with them to please sit down. Engage with them to give the details about our macroeconomic fundamentals as to how the system works and so on. So we present our case and we expect them to take on board the views that we've expressed, and that's a continuing exercise.
Is there any certain parameters that you can quote?
Maybe not here. I can always send it to you sometime later.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from a retired banker, Mr. Girish Chandagiri. With India's aging population set to increase significantly by 2050, what measures could the government introduce to engage and re-employ senior citizens in the public sector, similar to initiatives by private companies?
Engage and re-employ, you mean? Where is the person who asked
I
the question?
request Mr. Girish Chandagiri if he is here to kindly stand.
He's not here.
We'll be going to the next question then. This question is from Mr. Abhishek Krishna sir, that in regard to the southern coastal Karnataka and the investments being made in this sector in respect to education and IT, how does we contributing to the whole of the country's economy and its growth to become the world's third largest economy?
IT,
Like the IT sector and the education.
the
and
services sector is a big contributor to the GDP as it is. India's GDP derives, if I'm right, more than 60% contribution from the IT and services sector. So that contribution is a very significant contribution and largely organically done, not pushed by the government. I want to credit the IT sector and its growth. Government came in a bit later, but kept supporting the industry, but this industry grew exponentially, understanding the requirements of global markets. And that is why it has reached a stage of 60% or more contribution to India's GDP. And I understand, and the situation and the global need for greater services will sustain that momentum even in the future.
Thank you, ma'am. So now we are here with the last question, and even I am intrigued to hear the answer to this one. This question is from Ms. Melissa Deepthi Fernandez. The question is, you have achieved remarkable success in your career, from your academic background to holding one of the highest offices in the Indian government. Could you share the key factors that contributed to your success? And what advice would you give to the students, especially those aspiring to pursue careers in public service, economics, or policy making? How can they equip themselves with the skills and mindset necessary to excel in their chosen fields?
Oh, thank you. Please sit down. But my own assessment about my performance may not be right. Well, of course, there is immense possibility, and I'm glad you're looking at, moving in that kind of a direction. Believe in yourself, be confident, and I normally have not spoken gender, but I will say, you shouldn't get discouraged by the demands on you to be 3 times more productive than a man equal position. These are normal things. I think we should just keep going and believing in what you're doing. But of course, two or three virtues are, you should be true to yourself, you should be honest, and you shouldn't give any minimum chance for people to pick up on. You could have done better. Each time your benchmark is yours. Keep improving on your own. Needn't worry about comparing yourself with anybody else. But must be a team player.